Hey, it's Mr. A, back at you with another art video. Today we're going to dive into a low relief ceramic tile. If you want to take your drawings into 3 dimensions, this is a great way to get started. I started off with a wet clay tile, keeping it in a bag so it doesn't dry out, but it's actually the size of half of a sheet of computer paper. It's always best to sketch out your ideas before you begin. Don't put too much pressure on these to be the exact design. I definitely changed mine as I went. In order to be able to create an interesting and overlapping design on our tile, I'm going to create individual stencils for each object. This will allow us some flexibility when trying to arrange our pieces instead of having to get it in one shot. Next, you can use scissors to cut out each piece and arrange them in a composition that you find to be the most interesting. Let's take time to prepare the clay tile to receive the design. Carefully laying it out on a board, I start smoothing it out. Let's lay out each of our individual stencils in a way that's pleasing to the eye. Notice that I'm overlapping those designs to create a sense of depth. You can use a needle tool or even a pencil to trace these major outlines first. Notice how I'm not tracing each individual shape yet. That will come in handy later. After I get the major outline, notice that I can actually have this connecting design, then lay in each individual shape to transfer additional details. By pressing through the designs, I can transfer extra line work. Before we roll our relief on, the design has several overlapping lines. What I mean is that the cup isn't shown through the plate. Using the end of a colored pencil or a similar dowel-like shape, I can start rolling on the outside of any shape to make it pop forward. Instead of just relying on those lines that we scratch into it, the pressure from the rolling actually creates the illusion that one surface is closer to us and one is farther away. Notice how I might temporarily smash through some of the designs, but it's no problem if I smooth it out. If clay is sticking to your pencil or it's getting sticky, hit it with a dryer for a few minutes. Maybe in 30 seconds, and get a feel for it so it should roll nice and smooth, and you should be able to use your finger or another tool to smooth it back out. You may have to go over your lines several times to get a nice clean result. After smoothing up until the edge, you may notice that some of our lines have faded. It's important to keep those memorized or go back to your template if you lost the idea. Resketching them in with the needle tool is just temporary, but our goal is to make those shapes pop out by pushing the background farther away. If it's difficult to keep track of your lines, it's always easiest if you try to do the shapes that are closest to you in the image first. Since we're pushing away from us, think of it as the farthest areas need to be pressed down more often. So that bottle and the cup are farthest away from me so they're not last. One thing our template didn't really show us is any of those internal lines or details. Here, this is where the artist takes over. You get to decide how you'd like to press in order to create those shapes that are going to add detail to each one of your items. One more time with the dryer is going to get me into smoothing mode. Focusing on texture and small, really artistic details, I'm going to use some more interesting tools. I took an old iced coffee cup from one of my favorite places and cut it up into a smoothing tool of my own. Make sure you're not scraping. Try to focus your pressure on the flat, smooth surface of the plastic to help you get a nice, even sheen. Any mistakes can be smoothed out with your finger or any additional tools that you'd like to experiment with. But I found that nice, sharp, and clean edge that I'm looking for really helps those designs pop. With these shapes getting clearly defined, let's start to focus on some finishing touches. Now we've come a long way. It's important that we don't put too much pressure on ourselves. Now that we have this soft piece of clay, we can still work it. You can apply any of those techniques I showed you, or even create your own tools to kind of get in the zone and make this truly your own. Right now, I'm diving back in with that rolling technique to add a little bit more of the contents to the taco. Obviously, I gotta be careful on the edges I already created, but that's a part of the process. You can re-edge those things before moving on to another texture you like. With the majority of our design finished on our flat tile, let's take some time to clean up the edge. Now, if this isn't important to you, no worries, but I like to use the edge of a board that I've been working on to guide any tool that I'm using to trim. Now, you can do this with an X-Acto knife or a needle tool, but you're gonna find that when you trim an edge, you'll have some clay popping up, making it less uniform. One way to fix that is to turn your tool so it's scraping at one level. Notice how my hand is sliding on the table, keeping it at a set height. Getting that extra clay out of the way without messing up my design is a little bit of a challenge, but it pays off in the end, so you can have it look like a really intentional result. What I love about this project is we got to invent a few tools. Don't shy away from trimming down any extra pieces of plastic from that cup to get into a tight corner. In the spirit of improvising, I cut the round end off of a popsicle stick, used a marker cap to make that O, and stamped in the remainder of the shapes that took this to the next level. A bent paper clip is going to help me add some detail so we can get those ridges in the cap of the bottle. And then an old brush to get that tortilla nice and crunchy. I don't know about you, but I could go for some tacos right about now. Now that we've done all this hard work, we get to sign our piece before drying it out and putting it into the kiln. If you completed this project or found something useful to apply these skills to, be sure to snap a photo and post it and tag Art with Mr. A on Instagram. Love to see how you guys are responding to this stuff, and as always, leave a comment if you have an idea for my next project. See you next time. This has been Art with Mr. A.